Okay, we are live. I think so. Today is Thursday, September 12th, and this is our second podcast today. We normally do one every few weeks, and we did two today. I want to thank my guest earlier, Christina Kramer, and also my friend Valerie Heffron for setting up an interview we did at 5 o'clock. I thought it was pretty interesting. We covered the issues concerning the offshore wind plants and so forth, and I think it was one of our better podcasts that people should listen to. So if you haven't listened to it, please do so. Tonight, I'm joined by my friend Mike Trezza to talk about the debate that happened. I don't know if we should call it the great debate, Trez. We'll get into that in a minute, but
It was not
you
so
know,
great.
whatever you want to consider it. Great, not great, depends on your point of view. But we're going to cover that. We're going to talk about the election, and we're in the thick of things now, September 12th. Before we start, I just want to say, got some good news about Mom today, and I want to thank again, um, everybody at NYU Langone, and um, just want to say thanks to everybody, and really appreciate everybody over there. So thanks for that. Trez, without further ado, I want to introduce you my friend Mike Trezza. We've done this now a few times, Trezza, and this has become like my favorite podcast to do. We are best of friends, but it's not just that. It's because what I always tell you when we're offline, when I expect you to zig, you kind of zag, and you get me thinking a little bit in a way. But please answer a question for me. You're wearing what are you wearing? You're wearing a Judge jersey. I thought you were wearing a Giants jersey. I
Yeah, it's
didn't see you there.
actually, I figured out. Well, first of all, let me say I'm really glad about the great news about your mom because anything sports or politics or anything else, family has
Yeah.
to come first. And I know you know that, and I'm right there with you. So that's
I'm
great.
just very grateful.
Um,
Very grateful. Thank you. Yeah.
secondly, I would troll you a little bit with my
Yeah.
Aaron Judge football jersey I got at the stadium on not that you need a reminder, Ray, that Aaron Judge is the best player in football. And
Listen,
if you notice, Ray, before we get
yeah,
into the political landscape, I
yeah.
did not, I did not contact you at all on that Monday when the Jets were out in
Yeah.
San Francisco. I figured I would take the high road
Right.
and not say anything to you about it. So I'm not even going to say anything tonight about it. That was a little bit rough that game.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I hate to admit it. I probably shouldn't say it, but football has become more of a, kind of like it's a passion, but it's also become a little bit of an investment. I root for the Jets, but I just root where I think I could kind of, weasel my way through making a few bucks, on
And why
wagering.
not?
But
It's so
yeah,
accessible now.
it really is accessible. I'm not sure if it's a good thing, to be honest with you. I think I'm in check, but everyone says that. I don't know. It's something we should probably do a different podcast on. But yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. We got a Miami Buffalo game tonight. Who's going to win tonight?
Oh, I actually forgot it was on. I was actually, Wednesday night the Yankees stream, so I don't get a chance to watch. I didn't see any of last night's game, so
Oh,
I have it on. They were up 1-0 early. I forgot football was actually on tonight, um, and I've got to see if I actually still have the NFL network. I don't even know.
all right,
Um,
Chaz. Listen, I got to. Here we go. Here we go. It's
okay,
it's September. It's September 12th. We're in the thick of things. We're in. Yes, it's baseball season. Yes, it's the playoffs coming up soon. We got football just started. But that's typical. What's not typical is that we have to wait every 4 years to do this that we're about to do in November. And we're in the thick of things now. So I thought let's have a conversation with my friend Mike, who has chimed in a few times about his opinion about things. And now we are really ready to go. What did you think about Tuesday? Give me the quick 30-second soundbite, and then we'll dig into it more. What do you think about
okay.
Thursday night?
Well,
Tuesday.
I mean, here's the thing. Um, I understand you didn't want to do this yesterday, and I didn't want to do it on 9/11. The more I thought about it. But I mean, now a couple days later, most of what's been said as a reaction has kind of been said already. With that said, I will say that um, I thought it was a combination of things. I thought clearly Trump came off very, very unprepared. And Ray, I actually thought that Kamala did much, much better than what I expected her to do. Listen, I'm not going to be disingenuous about this. Both you and I, as recently as several months ago, didn't really have a high regard for her public speaking skills. level.
Sure.
Neither of us really thought she was good. Uh,
Right.
I will say, though, that whoever has been working with her, I don't know what they're paying that person, but whatever it is, it's not enough because I thought her improvement was dramatic,
True.
um,
True.
in her cadence, the way she spoke, and also this the strategy there. If it was her strategy to tweet um, Trump and get under his skin and irritate him, obviously that strategy worked to perfection, Ray. You know, I know you're giving me one of these as if you don't fully agree with
No,
that.
no,
And
I agree. No, I actually, no, I agree. I'll tell you when I don't agree with you. I actually agree with you. I do agree with you. I do.
okay, so you don't agree that she's improved a lot?
I think she's improved a lot. I think the challenges, and we'll get into it as we do this thing tonight, but I thought she did very well. I agree with everything you're saying. I did my side little thing. This is my thing, but I honestly think she did very well. Um, and you and I both had some of our questions about her before, maybe before she got the nomination.
Yeah,
She's
I
done
mean,
very, she's
I'm
done
not
very
going to make
well.
a secret about it. I mean,
Yeah.
when Joe decided to bow out, I had questions about what the process was going to be like, and as you know, I said it a number of times. I wanted a more open process. I understand how that wasn't really practical given the time constraints. Really, because of the fact that Joe Biden did take so long after the June debate to drop out. That was a very elongated process, and quite honestly, I didn't feel like it had to be. I wasn't terribly sure at that time that she elevated herself or was elevated to the top of the ticket. Number one, that she was going to be a great candidate. Number two, I'm still not terribly sure that she would be a great president. But number three, I wasn't sure of exactly what kind of campaign she would run against Trump, whether it would be effective, and whether she'd be able to stand up to him in a debate. And
Right.
I thought I was definitely pleasantly surprised from a couple different standpoints. Number one, she did much better than what I thought. Number two, he did much worse than what I thought. I understand, as everybody does, Ray, Trump's not a terribly disciplined person. And so the point I made to you on the phone that I want to put forth again, because I don't hear anybody saying it, is that I think because Biden did so poorly against him in June, and Trump, took that as I did so well in that debate in June. I really think it lulled Trump into a false sense of security, and he didn't really feel um, he had to prepare for this. And I think he took her lightly, and for that reason, I think he got his ass handed to him.
Let me ask you a question, because one of the things I enjoy talking to you about is not just what you think and who you agree with or who I agree with or the issues. Let's talk about it from a technical standpoint. We spoke about this yesterday, I think. Did you notice that there was going to be a certain, it started off a certain way, right? Like they say, from the jump, there was a certain vibe from the jump. Did it start with the handshake, Trez? Like how
Yeah,
did this thing start?
yeah. I was curious to see what the greeting was going to be because obviously Joe Biden and Trump know one another for a long time. And so by the time they debated in June, clearly the vibe between the two of them was hostile. They didn't want to shake each other's hands, they didn't want to greet each other in any way. They wanted to walk onto the stage separately, do the debate, and walk off separately, not really even acknowledge one another. But as has been talked about um, in a lot of places, Trump and Harris had never met one another in person, which is kind of strange. So I thought that it was not insignificant. I thought it was insignificant that she was the one to cross the stage, essentially walk over to to his podium, introduce herself, um, stuck out her hand, said her first and last name as if as if he didn't know who she was, but much like you would do, Ray, in a business type situation or even in an academic type setting. And I thought that really signaled an attempt to control um, the evening right from the start. Yeah, I mean, again, somebody could say I'm overstating that or I'm attaching more significance than it deserves. I don't think so. I thought it was not just a classy move, but I thought it was a strategic move to say, "Hey, listen, um, you can't pretend like I'm not here. Here I am. I'm going to come over to you. I'm going to get not in your face in that way, but I'm going to be in your face in that way." And by doing that, she sort of established herself as the serious person to be reckoned with from the outset. I thought.
One of the things I was just saying, one of the things I enjoy about this, Trez, is that we get very technical because this is sort of what you do, teaching communications. You understand this. I was always taught, I'm going to say this at the risk of getting in trouble, and I didn't even tell you this yesterday on the telephone. I was always taught, I don't know where I was taught, but I think I Googled it when I was like 15 years old. I don't know. I was taught that when it comes to a man and a woman, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, and I don't know if they're afraid, but I'm not, or if they just missed it or whatever. I was always taught that you want to, when you're greeting a woman as a man, you want to let her sort of take the lead a little bit. So that, to me, that meant that you wait for her to extend a handshake, and or obviously there's not going to be a kiss on the cheek, but I'm talking about just everyday interaction, somebody you meet on the street, a friend. I think he was surprised that she wanted to shake his hand. I think he expected that he was just going to go to his podium. I think she got him because she actually made the move to go over, and then of course he's going to extend his hand. But I think she surprised him, right? He looked like he was totally
Yeah,
surprised.
I do see a lot of things that are communication related through the lens of gender, but this I didn't, quite
Okay.
honestly, and I didn't. It didn't make a difference to me whether she was the smaller
Smaller,
person in stature,
right,
the taller person, or the Democrat, or the Republican, or the woman,
right.
or the man, or the black person, the white person. I mean, none of that made a difference to me. She approached him as if, "Hey, listen, um, I'm going to be here all night. I'm going to be
Yeah.
a force to be reckoned with, and I'm going to sort of put you on notice, but in a friendly and civil way." I thought it was a nice moment for her.
And Trez, before we get into the actual debate, let me get to some of the good stuff first. What do you think about the moderators?
I actually thought that they were fine. I heard a lot of this. What I saw is sour grapes in the hours after the debate, and also obviously the next day, mostly on Fox, which, as you know, I tend to go back and forth. Um, Tend to. Oh, now this is good. We can see the comments live as
Yeah,
they come in. So
StreamYard
you can
turns out
read
to
them
be
if you want,
pretty
right?
good. And this is Boris, and Boris is always interesting. I always joke around with Boris that he's my favorite socialist and communist, which he does not take as an insult. So and I love Boris, and he's a great guy. So let me read it aloud. I don't happen to think that Trump blew the debate, and while Harris definitely did better by many measures, she didn't blow it out of the park. Smart. I agree with you. I agree with you, Boris. Trump needed to blow it out to make it a difference in the race, and very close race in the electoral college system that favors the Republican Party. Right. And you kind of jumped it a little bit, Boris, but you're right. Is this all going to make a difference in November, Trez?
Well, let me get back to the question you asked me about the moderators. I
Yes.
honestly thought that they were fine. Um, did they ask more follow-up questions to Trump and not let him skate away with answers that were either non-specific or dishonest? Yes, I would say that they did that a number of times. I thought that they asked questions that were fine to both candidates. It didn't seem to me at all like they had their finger on the scale for Harris. If they did, I mean, they would have tossed softball questions her way. I mean, one of the first questions they asked her was about her about face on fracking. So that's not a softball question. That's a question that you need to be asked, and it's a question that I'm with you in this regard, right? You need to answer. I mean, so I thought that they were fine. I didn't see their thumb on the scale.
Fine is okay, but give me a grade, Trez. You're a professor. Give me a grade on a scale
Well,
of what,
I
A
mean,
to F.
again,
What would you grade the moderators? Give me a
I
grade.
was more interested in what the candidates had to say, but if you wanted me to grade the two of them collectively, I would say they were a solid B, maybe even a B plus. I wouldn't give them an A, but I certainly wouldn't downgrade them based on partiality. I didn't see that as being the case. I thought a lot of the whining and complaining that came later that night and the next day was really, again, was sour grapes. And without, getting ahead of myself, right? Because I know you're going to get here. When Trump gets sent up or convicted on charges, the criminal system is crooked. When he loses elections, the election system is crooked. Now, when he loses a debate, the debate system is crooked, and the moderators have their finger on the scale. So, I mean, again, when you are defeated, you should be defeated with graciousness. The very fact that he felt the need right after the debate to go on with Hannity and have Sean throw some bouquets at him and tell him he still loves him and do his sycophant thing, tells you what you need to know. And the fact that she said right after the debate, Vice President Harris, that she was willing to do another debate and wanted another debate, and Trump was sort of hemming and hawing about it. And he tried to pass that off as, well, she lost the debate, so right. She wants a rematch like a boxer. I mean, right. Can I put this as directly as I possibly can? No serious person, you, and I don't mean you, Ray, you generally could be as ardent a Trump supporter as you can be, and there's no way you can make a case for Trump having won that debate or even having done well that night. No serious person could make that case. I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, and fair. And my job is not to contest with you just artificially, but playing devil's advocate for a second. Kamala, grade-wise, let's do the grade thing as a professor. What would you grade Trump? What would you grade Kamala's performance?
I would grade Trump probably a C-. I mean,
I'm surprised they're that high.
Yeah, I'm trying to be a little. Charitable. Okay. I very rarely give people grades below that. They really have to, basically.
If anybody's actually watching tonight and you want to take Trezza's class, he's a good grader. He's a generous grader. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me do a little commercial. No, I'll give him a C-. Again, I think his lack of preparedness was evident, and his inability to stay on message, stay focused. I mean, he wanted to discuss 6 different topics within a 2-minute speaking turn. Now, they didn't hold his speaking turn to 2 minutes. It seemed at times like he was speaking for 3 minutes or more, which again is more than 50% what you're supposed to be allotted. So, I thought his lack of preparedness was evident. I thought his lack of self-control was evident. His lack of discipline, I thought, was on full display. If you're talking about a specific thing and she tweaks you with something like the size of the crowds at your rally, ignore that and talk about the topic that was being discussed before she made that comment. But I mean, I almost hate to frame it this way because many have done this. And it's now become a bit of a cliche. She laid out the bait and he took the bait every time. The first person I heard say that, right, was on Fox News no more than 5 minutes after the debate ended. Somebody on Fox News, I can't remember which guest it was, said she baited him and he took the bait every time. And that was Fox News, and that was 5 minutes after the debate. So, I mean, again, for somebody to try to tell me he did a good job, you're either completely delusional or you're being intellectually dishonest with that. In terms of if you want me to give her a grade, sure. I would say somewhere between a B+ and an A-. I mean, I thought that, again, strategically she was on point. Were there a couple questions she wasn't?
Well, the first question, you told me yourself, the first question was not a good look for her, right?
No.
The first question,
well, again, I mean, that's why not an A. I thought she got off to a shaky start, but I thought that she hit all the points she needed to. She sent him into really a tailspin very early in the process, Ray, from which he never really recovered. Um, by the middle of that debate, every answer of his made him sound like a ranting, raving lunatic. He just got off message and was never able to recover. Um, you could see the look on his face. I was waiting for smoke to start coming out of his ears. He had that sort of mean mug scowl, staring straight ahead into the camera. And the one time that he did react in terms of facial expression was when she mentioned crowd size. And I mean, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but his eyes kind of like popped out of his out of their sockets like that, and you could tell he was just so. I mean, I don't even like to use the word triggered by that
Right.
comment.
Right. But here's the thing. Let me ask you this, and you know how I am. I jump all around. It's easy with you because we're friends. But um, do you think the takeaway of this whole thing is going to be the dog thing and the cat thing? Is this what we're going to remember this debate to be
No,
about?
I
Even
mean,
dogs?
if you notice, I didn't bring that up, and I don't want to talk about that. But you know what, Ray? I'm not trying to betray your confidence.
Yeah.
You know that the day after this debate, I discussed it um, with two of my classes, and the 3 o'clock class happens to be a really mature and really engaged kind of group. So I was a little more curious what they had to say. I happen to have two young women in there that are Haitian, and one of them was really, really offended and really angry by Trump trying to characterize Black people generally, and more specifically, Haitian Black people in that way. And she was upset about it. And I said, "Hey, listen, say what you feel you need to say. You're in a safe place where you can express yourself, and if somebody disagrees with you, they're welcome to disagree with you too." So yeah, I thought that whole thing was really silly, and all it really did was make Trump seem more. I hate to use the word right because it's become so cliche. More unhinged. I mean, to be talking about that um, just seems so. I mean, it was laughable. And with the split screen, you could see at a certain point in time, she was actually laughing at him. Now, you can say that's not a great strategy or it is one, but you could see. I mean, it was on display visually that the more she was amused and bemused by his narrative regarding that, um, the more angry he got to the point where he was just I mean, he was just spinning off the rails. It was honestly, I was as much as I disliked Trump, I was embarrassed for him. I thought it was embarrassing to be putting out that garbage, um, you know, with 70 million people watching. I thought it was an absolute embarrassment. And what it tells me, right, bigger picture, is that, and I said this to you last time, I don't think you agreed, and it's fine if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
The narrative that I like Trump because he's a great businessman has now been laid bare. It's a lie. It's a scam. The thing about I like Trump because he's not a politician. Well, he's been a politician for 10 years. So what do we really have left? Trump has this to sell to you. He has fear and he has bigotry. He has absolutely um, two things to sell you, whether you're suburban, city, white, black, man, woman, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, whatever you have. He wants to sell you hate. If you notice, right, some people thought he redeemed himself in the closing statement. I actually thought just the opposite. I thought um, his closing statement really all he had to offer, whatever minuscule amount of undecided voters that there might still be out there, was here's what's going to happen if she becomes president. I want you to fear that. And that's what he had.
Boris added, and I think you're right, Boris, by the way, that it was strategic. Her laughing was strategic, and people tend to gravitate to or it's people who take these things lightly. I heard that similar sentiment, Boris, on the radio today. They were talking about the famous debate. I mean, I was only, 8 years old in 1984 when Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan had a debate, and Ronald Reagan took it very easy and was very relaxed and made the joke about, I
There
won't
you
hold
go
my
again.
opponents. Huh?
There you go again was, I
It,
think, the thing he said that got a lot of play. Or was that debate? I'm
it was
sorry.
the, it was the debate. It was the debate where, yeah, where it was about the age and all that. But the point is about people taking it easier. She had a better demeanor than Trump on Tuesday, right? Her general appearance, her general, demeanor, whatever you want to call it, disposition, whatever it was, she seemed to be a little bit lighter on her feet, and he seemed to be tired or whatever the word is, like stressed. I don't know what the word is.
He
Maybe
looked
old.
tired. He all of a sudden, and I mean, many people have made this point. It's ironic that compared to Joe Biden, he wanted to position himself as the young guy who was spry and still, able to think on his feet and was a fighter. And I'm going to get in and beat Bob and weave and this and that. And compared to her, he actually looked like an old guy, and started to sound like a really old, curmudgeonly, get off my lawn kind of guy. And you want to talk about getting yourself in trouble, right? Whenever you
Mhm.
mention a woman's appearance,
Yeah.
you're going down a bad path. But I thought, and again, this might seem to you like a subtle, insignificant thing. To me, it wasn't. Whoever helped her get her hair off her face, I think deserves a raise, because even at the convention, her hair was in her eyes, which is a pet peeve of mine. I tell my students all the time, facial expression and eye contact are paramount parts of the physical dimension of public speaking. And the fact that she went from at the convention, hair down in her eyes, to at this debate, it was all of a sudden off her face. You could see her facial expression clearly at any given time. You could see where her eye contact and eye behavior was coming. Was it coming to the moderator? Was it coming to the audience at home through the camera? Or was it at many times during the debate directed in Trump's direction? Where, if you notice, by contrast, he wouldn't direct any eye contact with her. He wouldn't say her name. He never referred to her as the vice president, Ms. Harris, Kamala, whatever way you want to address me, say my name. I mean, give me that respect. She called him by his name. She looked in his direction when he was speaking, and was at times alternately amused by what he was saying, angry at what he was saying, and reacted, I thought, appropriately in almost every exchange.
Can I pick up on one point that you made? And I'm curious about your opinion on this. My opinion on this is that one thing that she did, it was a very subtle thing. And Boris, if you're watching, I'm curious about your opinion on this also. I think
Send Boris the link. Let him come on with us.
I would love Boris, if you want to come on, let me know and I'll do something. I don't know what I'll do, but here's what I'm curious about. I think, and I haven't heard anybody say this, and it doesn't mean I'm smarter than anybody, but just I think he actually hates being called former President Trump. I think
You know
because
what?
that's
You,
not
you,
a normal salutation for a president. You would always call, if you met Clinton on the street tomorrow, you'd say, "Hi, Mr. President," even though it's no longer the president. You're not supposed to say Mr. President. It's like, "Hi, President Clinton." I looked this up one time. So if you're the former president, you always retain the title of president. And he's so petty when it comes to this stuff. I was going to say a different word, but he's so petty when it comes to this stuff. And I think she actually was, whoever, to your point, whoever coached her very, very well, and whoever, not coached, but whoever
extremely well.
prepared her.
Give that
Yeah.
person
But
grace.
I think that very subtle point about saying the former President Trump, and every time she referred to him, she showed him a little bit of deference. She didn't say you or Donald Trump. Donald Trump did this,
That
talking
guy
about him in
over
the third
there.
person. Yeah, because talking about him in the third person to us would have sounded weird. He's right next to you. You know, she did it very strategically, and she said former President Trump, former President Trump, and I think it drove him crazy. And then the other thing that she did was, in the very beginning, she said, what you're going to hear tonight is this, and this, a bunch of lies, a bunch of exaggerations. And it's almost like Well, that's true, but I know you're saying that. I'll just put that on a second. Boris said not many former presidents have run again. But what I'm saying is that if you met a guy on the street, Boris, if you met Clinton on the street, you would probably say Mr. President Clinton. You wouldn't say Mr. President necessarily. I just think it's a little thing, but I think it got under him from the very beginning. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just talking about the technicalities of this because a lot of people have talked about the politics, and we'll get into that maybe too. But mostly the technicality from your point of view as a professor, I'm always curious about that. This issue about height, nobody thinks that, nobody cares about that anymore. That was something that people talked about even before the debate. The few minutes before that, I heard people saying he's so much taller, he's a man. You don't want to have the scenario where, he's like Rick Santorum from 20 years ago, where he overwhelmed Hillary and everybody hated him for that. But the point here
No,
is
that
that
was
no
Rick
one's talking.
Lazio. Lazio.
Yeah, I'm sorry, not Rick Santorum, Rick Lazio from
Yes.
Brightwaters, right?
Yes.
So the point being that this issue that he was going to physically look like a president and she was going to look like a little girl. Nobody thinks that today, right? That's not even a thing anymore.
No, no.
Right.
But I wanted to get back to what you mentioned, which I think is an interesting point, which is her use of here's what you're going to hear tonight. Now, where
Right.
do you usually hear that, Ray? You hear that in a courtroom, which is her background, right? Before the prosecutor or the defense makes their case, what they do is they give an opening statement. They give an opening statement, and the prosecutor's opening statement would be, here's what you're going to hear tonight. You're going to hear from witnesses that say that Ray Aurora was at the scene at such and such, had motive, had opportunity to commit this crime, right? So again, what she was telling the audience is, I'm here to prosecute the case against, as you mentioned, I'll put it in your way, former President Trump. I'm here to prosecute the case, and the case is now, why should he not be president again? And it's funny because you had asked me on a number of occasions, what do you, not just me, but you in the general sense of the word, like about her, other than the fact that that she's not Trump? And now it almost turned around to where she was telling people, hey, you know, do you only like Trump because he's not me? If that even makes sense.
Okay. I want to take off the gloves for a moment, and we are the best of friends. Everyone knows
Let's
that.
go.
Boris, listen, Boris wrote a nice comment. We guys have a good conversation. He won't make it free, but I appreciate that, Boris. I want to let you off the hook, but I want to ask you a question because I'm curious about your perspective on this, Boris, and of course you, Trezza. I think here's the one problem that I have as a listener, as a voter. I think Trump is right about one issue. I think he's right about a couple of issues, but I think he's right about one issue to the extreme. I think he's extremely right about this one issue, and that's the one thing that I'm very disappointed in the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris and a lot of other people, President Biden. You can go down the list of people. When former President Trump says that we are very close to a world war, I don't know what it is about me, if I'm getting older and getting more pessimistic or cynical or, whatever it is. I don't know what, I mean, I can feel the changes. I told you offline that on Monday, I was as depressed as I've ever been in my life. And today I feel like myself. I feel perfectly fine. We got some good news. I wasn't even depressed about that. I was just doesn't feel myself.
Right.
But my point is, when he says that we're so close to a world war and nobody freaking sees it, I sit there and I go, he's 100% right. I see this war going on in Russia and Ukraine, and I see this thing going on in Israel and Palestine. And I'm telling you that I really feel like we are very close. So as wrong as he might have been, and as crazy as he might have been, do you think that she sufficiently answered questions about, I want to zero in on foreign policy. Do you think you feel assured that she's given us something there? I mean, I was
No,
waiting for something. I heard a
no,
lot of wishy-washy
no.
stuff.
I don't feel at all like she's given
Okay.
us enough specifics. But certainly back to that, I would say he didn't give enough specifics. And
Right.
and it's funny, right? Because as naive as my students are, they picked up on this. I had one student who happens to be Muslim who bemoan the lack of substantive conversation regarding the situation in the Middle East. And again, I get it that it's one of only a number of very pressing issues that they needed to discuss. So I get it that this guy would have liked to have heard more about it. Um, I did have several students mention to me that their concerns about hostilities in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East were really real, and they felt that honestly that both candidates sort of brushed that aside or swatted that away. So I mean, listen, when you're trying to talk about the economy, you're trying to talk about your favorite issue, immigration. You're trying to talk about
It's not immigration though; it's migration. But okay, go ahead.
okay, you're trying to talk about a number of different topics. But I will tell you, Ray, one of the best comments I heard in the classroom the other day, and again, I always invite respectful disagreement. I said, listen, I want everybody here to express themselves as long as you're respectful to somebody else. You're free to disagree with them and tell them, I disagree with you, and here's the reason why. So, you know, one student said this, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. He said, well, if Harris wanted to be the candidate that's telling us not to look back, instead to look forward, then why is she talking about January 6th? Because that is now nearly 4 years ago, and that is looking back. I said, okay. And another student chimed in and responded to him and said, well, here's the reason why. Because how does what happened on January 6th of 2021 affect what happens in January of 2025? And I
Fair
said,
point.
wow.
That's pretty deep. That's a pretty good point. You have to say you're saying it, so it's your point.
Leave
And
it,
it's her point.
leave
But
it to
yeah,
college kids, right? And again,
that's a very very
I
good
wish
point.
I could give credit where it was due, but I don't want to betray
I mean, that's like an
the
A right there.
confidence
That's like an A.
of these kids by
Right.
by
Right.
using their name. But I said I can't pass that off as my own words or my own
Right.
thoughts. I mean that's your thought, but and again, the person didn't say it back to the other person in a nasty way. They were very matter of fact about it, and they said, "Well, here's the reason why she wants to talk about it because I think it does affect what goes on moving forward," which I thought was a great point.
Well, I agree with you 100%. That's going to make me think after we get off this podcast, even framing it that way. I wish I had thought about that. I bet you do too, because that's a great way of phrasing it. But the point is that okay? I want to jump to something else, Trez. On a scale, not an A to F scale like a normal scale, but on a 0 to 10, 10 being the most impactful decision or issue on the election, abortion. Where does it seem to take front and center stage on the debate in the election? On a what scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, 10 being the issue, where
Okay,
does abortion rank?
so here's what I'm going to say to you, and that I think might surprise you just a little bit. Um, I don't think it's going to be as big an issue um, as I kind of hope it would be. And the reason I say that is because I think that women voters, for the most part, again, I don't want to place everybody in a category or stereotype. I think that women voters, for the most part, are already in Kamala's corner. And I don't think they really need that issue to be motivated to show up. I think where she needs to make inroads are with men. Um, and here's the thing. Besides
Can I interrupt you? When you say men as general. Do you,
men,
are you going to be
men,
more specific?
black men,
Are you going
white
to black men, white men, men?
Asian men, um,
Okay,
Middle Eastern men, whoever.
men.
She needs to make inroads with men. And again, I'm not saying that men don't care about the issue of abortion. I mean, I have a 24-year-old daughter. Um, you have sons. So again, if my daughter was impregnated as a result of a rape, God forbid, I'd want her to be able to have an abortion if that's what she wanted to do. So again, the issue matters to me, but it matters to men, I think, in a less personal way than it matters to women. She has to make inroads with men. And getting back to Trump, not only is he
Do you
selling.
think? Hold on, I gotta zero on that minute. Do you think, to your point, do you think she's spending too much time on the abortion issue? Too much?
No, I think she's spending the time that needs to be spent, because the thing is that if there were women, let's just say there were women that were getting complacent and now think, wow, Kamala really wiped up the floor with him. Now she's going to win, and decided to get complacent. She needs to remind them that, hey, listen, this is a guy who wants to take vows about the fact that he put those people on the Supreme Court that helped take away, or at least severely limit, your choices about your body. He wants to take vows about that. So please, I mean, don't get complacent about that. So I think she spent the right amount of time on it. But getting back to Trump for just a moment, not only does he have fear to sell, not only does he have bigotry to sell, he has machismo to sell to men. I mean, Ray, we talked about it. Look at his RNC. You got Hulk Hogan out there, and who was the other wrestling guy? Oh, Dana White or Dana White.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, we needed two wrestling guys out there. So, what he's trying to say to men is that you are, without trying to sound flippant about it, you're a girly man. You're a beta male if you're not with Trump. You're a softie if you're a guy. If you're a white guy who cares about black people, if you're a straight guy who cares about gay people, if you're a Christian who cares about Muslims or Jews, if you're somebody who cares about how people who don't look like you or worship like you, and are compassionate, that's equated and conflated with being soft and being
okay. But hold on.
Trump, you got to drive a pickup truck, man.
Yeah. Okay, but
on there and let's go.
So following up on that, do you think that his strategy is to say, because one thing I've always said, I think that he's overestimated as a business person and underestimated as a politician. And for everybody who wanted to go after him, for whatever reasons, if you really wanted to go after him, this is the biggest surprise I've ever had in my life, honestly, when it came to Trump, is why don't they look at what he did in Atlantic City? There's so much carnage there in terms of unpaid bills, in terms of what he did to the city, real estate deals. I mean, I know a little bit of whatever, but there was a lot of bodies, proverbial, not literally, but proverbial, that were buried in Atlantic City. I never understood. They're going back 40 years talking about all kinds of stuff, but they don't go back 25 years, which is right here. Anyway, my point is, do you think that he's trying to say, do you think he's given up on women voters? Do you think he's given up on, especially, I would presume, women voters of color? And do you think he's trying to play like an inside straight and say, listen, I got to get my male population out?
Yes,
is that what his strategy is?
Chance he has. That's the only chance he has, right? Again, I'm going to get myself in trouble by saying this. If you're a woman and you're supporting Trump still, and I'm not talking about 2016, and I'm not even talking about 2020. I'm talking about in 2024. If you're a woman voter and you're voting for Trump and you're supporting him, after the way he treated women, after the rights he wants to take, I don't understand why, and I probably would be reluctant even to have a conversation with you to try to understand what you're thinking.
All right, listen, we're the best of friends, but can I say something to you, Trezza?
I just think you're detached from reality, right? I know you're going to say I should listen to anybody and their perspective.
No. But the point was I was going to make is that the one thing I was going to say, and I say this respectfully to you and to Democrats, man, I'm still a Democrat, is I had a friend text me something similar. I think he texted us both something similar on that group chat that we're on. And it's like, how could anybody, I question the intelligence of anybody. This was the exact quote. I question the intelligence of anybody. Now you're saying women. He said anybody who walks away from that and can support him. And what I'm saying is, listen, we've had Hillary do this before with the deplorable thing. There's every single person who's supportive of Trump and ever been supportive of Trump. And I'm openly a 2016 supporter of Trump. I voted for him. You
Okay.
know, does
Fine.
anybody who supported Trump or supports Trump, are they automatically off the rails, crazy,
No,
psychotic,
no,
deplorable?
no.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, if you're a woman,
Yeah.
and again, I'm a man. I can't tell women how to feel. I'm a white guy. I can't tell black people or Hispanics
Right.
or Asians how to feel. I think that's wrong. I mean, I mentioned this to you. My cousin is married to a black Jamaican woman, and
Right.
when Biden said, if you're voting for Trump, you ain't black, my cousin got very offended at that, and he said, who is Biden to tell black people how they should feel?
Right.
Um, so I don't want to tell another group how they should feel, right?
Right.
All
Right.
I'm saying is, if at this point in 2024 you're a woman and you're supporting Trump, I don't understand you. I don't understand why. And I doubt anything I would have to say to you would make a difference to you. So I'd be probably reluctant even to really engage you on that level. But
Well,
look, Ray, when we do this,
mm,
you ask me a lot of questions. I want to ask you a question,
okay.
I'm not trying to ambush you here,
Yeah.
but over the last couple of days, a lot's been made
Mm,
of this. I don't know if you'd call it an alliance or a dalliance between
mm,
Trump and this Laura
yeah.
Loomer or
Yeah.
whatever her name is.
Mm,
Um, and again, she was on the plane with Trump on the way to the, the debate. And again, Trump, listen, he tends to embrace these people that post stuff that's openly bigoted, openly racist, openly misogynistic. And I just listen. I know you have a thick skin, but I mean, did it bother you at all? Her post about um, Kamala Harris visiting her grandparents in India. Now she took a very sweet photograph of a young girl visiting her maternal grandparents in India and turned that into the White House is going to smell like curry. I mean, I'm asking you as a friend, did that bother you at all? I mean, did that?
So okay. So the short answer is no, but it's a longer answer that goes to like kind of like a midlife crisis that I'm going through in my life. But I'll tell you why I say that, because my father always taught me that, we came from a different country. We came from the same country as she did. It's India. It's Punjab, but it's part of India,
Right.
the Indian side. So I should automatically feel a certain, you would think, not you would think that I would feel something. Honestly, I didn't. I really didn't feel it because. Um, I don't know if I should say it, how I could say it nicely in a way that doesn't offend people if anyone's watching. I don't know, but you know, I'm an equal opportunity person, so I will make fun of every single person's background. I make fun of my own background. So did I take offense to it? I wouldn't say I take offense to it. Did I take this great umbrage that the former president, and maybe even the future president of the United States is hanging around this person? Um, I didn't feel that real emotion that maybe you thought I would have felt initially. I just didn't think it. I thought she was a nut job, uh, and I just, I'm so divorced from this issue about race. I walk into a place and I don't, if people don't like me, I never assume it's because of my background. I assume it's because of my mouth or my politics or my approach or my look, or more likely my faces, because I'm terrible at faces. I think I've lost jobs because I make faces. I mean, there's an inside joke there for somebody who's watching. But the point being that, there's a lot of things that, go into that. I didn't feel that emotion about it that maybe other people did. I didn't.
But
I didn't
again,
feel.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't tell somebody who's a friend of mine or not a friend of mine of another race or a different gender or whatever that they should be offended or how to feel. But what I'm asking you
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
as a voter, I mean, does it bother you that a guy who's now running for president for the third time would
Yeah.
surround himself with people that are this? And again, it's not
Mhm.
bigoted. It's not
Mhm.
openly bigoted. It's
Mhm.
proudly bigoted. I mean, this
Mhm.
is his entourage, right? This woman is on the plane with him, doing God knows what on the plane. But I mean, I just, I, it bothered me. That
No, I mean,
Trump
yeah,
is ever
I get
didn't
it.
bother me.
Yeah, I get it. I didn't have a visceral reaction. Like a visceral reaction, you just hear it and you react and you just feel right away. I didn't feel that, but I understand the point. I mean, her words were horrible. Really interesting, by the way, Trezza. Did you ever expect? I haven't followed this closely today. I was busy with someone, but the story that's breaking between Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, as they say, and this woman, and she's calling her out as being a racist, and the other one's calling her out as being an anti-Semite. I mean, you've got a little bit of a little battle going on inside
Yeah,
that
it's a
room.
little, it's not unexpected. Again, Trump surrounds himself with people that amplify some of the nonsense. Some of it's covertly racist, some of it's overtly racist and bigoted. And again, it's too the horses are all out of the barn, and we can't shut the door.
So
He's not going to go back on anything. But Ray, I wanted to give you one more.
yeah.
And this is something I didn't hear anybody talk about, but I mentioned on our group chat. I don't know if you saw it, but and nobody on any of the cable networks. I stayed with the coverage till late that night, Tuesday night. I didn't hear anybody bring this up. When she attacked him on January 6th, and
Yeah.
he mentioned that Ashley Babbitt. I mean, do you recall? Maybe it was just me that took it this way. Who did he blame for Ashley Babbitt's?
Listen, Trezor, that's why honestly you shouldn't be here. You should be on like CNN or something big time. That is such a great point. No, that is a great point. That is a great point.
I was
No, but you know why that's a great point. That's a great point because at the time, even though I told you I was out of it and having my midlife crisis night where I thought my life was over, my point was I listened to that and I flagged it in my brain. It was like an email where you put a red flag on and go, what the hell did he just say? And I meant to go back to that and figure out what he was trying to say, and I totally forgot until you just brought it up.
But
he was blaming the police for having shot her.
100%.
I heard that at the time. I said, what the hell? Nobody has talked about that. Nobody has said that in any of the shit I've read. You are the only person
for killing somebody who shouldn't have been there, who is trespassing on government property. Now, again, if you want to do what some of the commenters on your threads do and say insurrection, what insurrection? I can't have a conversation with you either. She didn't belong there. And if she got killed, listen, I try to be a compassionate person. Guess whose fault that is? It's her fault. For him to stand up there and throw the cops under the bus. If I'm a member of any police union in this country right now that's endorsed Trump, I would say to whoever my union rep was, hey, listen, that scumbag, I'm sorry for my use of language, just threw us under the bus.
Hold on a second.
Insurrection, and we killed this one. Hey,
hold on.
That's her fault.
I'll give you that point. But you got to give me my point. And my point is not his point, but it sounds like I'm defending him, even though I'm taking the same point. It's not from me. This is from the radio, and I think Sid Rosenberg and Curtis Lee, I think it was Sid who brought this up, may have been even Bill O'Reilly. Somebody from WABC brought this point up, okay? I heard on the radio, and they were 100% right. There was something that Kamala said that actually, if you think about it, is quite offensive. It's just that nobody really talked about it. They did on WABC, and what they said was this. When she said to him, you left our economy in tatters. Let's think about what you did and what you left us with. And she was going on her talking points. And she said, you left our economy with high unemployment and, whatever. And then she said, and the worst attack on American, I don't want to misquote her, so I don't know verbatim, but the gist of it was the worst attack on America since the Civil War.
Right.
Okay.
And she didn't factor in 9/11, which
was right. You don't. Here it is on September 10th. If you want to talk about Exhibit A of cognitive decline, think about how Trez, let me just finish this point. Think about how crazy this is. That these people had a debate on Tuesday night. Okay, we fall asleep. You wake up in your bed. I wake up my fat ass in my bed, and somehow, some way, we just watched them in Pennsylvania. The next minute, we watched them in New York City. They have all the resources in the world. I wish I had that. I'd go around the world every day. My point is, they're going to meet each other on 9/11 again. They shook hands. They did a whole video. How could he not have said to her, and how could she not have realized as bad as January 6th was, do I feel that January 6th was as bad as 9/11? Absolutely not. I don't. I'm sorry.
No,
Kick me out of what it was.
no,
But
but
9/11 was such a bad event on the eve of it. For her to have said that, and not a single person except the people on WABC have called her out on it. That's ridiculous, Trez. That's
okay. No,
ridiculous.
I'll agree with you there. I think she misspoke on that. But again, what she was trying to the point, just to lend some
Mhm.
context to it, and not to defend her, if she if she overlooked 9/11 on the eve of it, I mean, that
On
obviously
September 10th, can you imagine if
that's
Trump did that?
that's a mistake.
Yeah.
That's a bad one. But I think just to lend some context to it is um, was who was doing the orchestrating of it. It wasn't our sworn enemies. It wasn't people from other countries that hate us. On January 6th, it was the former president who couldn't stand the fact that he lost. And by the way, Ray, that night, um, he continued to push the stolen election narrative. I almost couldn't believe it. As little as I think of Trump, I couldn't believe that he was still willing to get up there with 65, 70 million people watching, because he was almost ready to do a 180 and say, "Hey, listen, I lost by a smidge." And then when they asked him about that, he said, "Well, that was sarcastic. I didn't mean that I actually lost." And he was still willing to push that narrative, which again gives me such a such an anxiety about the fact that I think
Uh-huh.
when he loses, I'm finally
Okay.
ready to say, when he loses, I think this next insurrection, which I personally believe he's already planning, is going to be worse than the last one. And again, I don't think it's going to take the same form. I don't think it's going to be everybody at one place on one day, um, doing this type of um, everybody in the same place at the same time event. I think it's going to be a lot of smaller insurrections that are going to take place across the country, and cynically, I think it's going to be Trump pulling the strings like a
Well,
puppet master.
it's, you know,
I really fear that, right?
I mean, listen, I love you, but I hope you're wrong, obviously, on that one. We both, you hope you're wrong on that one also. But my question is this: when we look back on this, let's assume for a moment, without even getting to, we'll get to that maybe as the last question, but without even getting into who wins this election, assume for a moment that Kamala wins. Just assume for a moment she wins. However long she has in term, whether it's 4 years or 8 years, she's a great president. She's a good president. Will we look back? This is the question I really want to ask. Will we look back at Trump as being an asterisk or as being the defining politician of our time? Which one is he? Is he the asterisk who's the outlier, the one off, the guy who hit, who he's like? He's like Brady Anderson from the Baltimore Orioles, right? The guy hit 15 home runs, and then one year he hit
He
50
was
home
done.
runs because he was pop. Right? Is Trump the crazy guy who actually snuck in the White House one time, or is he the defining politician of our time? Which one is it?
Neither. Again, I don't want to give you a non-specific answer. He's not going to define. He is going to define this era, because again, this is going to stretch across a 10, 12-year period. He's going to define Republican politics in this part of the 21st century. And I'm hoping, and I know I'm not the only one, there are a lot of people on the Republican side of the aisle that are hoping that it's not just Trump that goes away, that Trumpism goes away, and that they can return to a Republican Party that is conservative in
Mm-hmm.
ideology, and that is um, doesn't have a guy behaving like a mob boss. Right? You talk about foreign policy. I mean, I thought. And again, he sounded like this for a while, but I thought there was one answer where he clearly um, still insisted on coming with that attitude that sounds like Tony Soprano when he's talking about protection money that the countries in NATO should be paying us to protect them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that sound a little John Gotti-ish to you, a little Tony
Well,
Soprano-ish to you? I mean, I
well,
understand that, but the way he frames that,
well,
um,
hold on. I got to cut you off because I want to do point counterpoint. You made a specific point that you want the Republican Party to go back to normal, to their version of
Not
normal before.
decide. A lot of Republicans do.
Yeah, okay, but let me say something. What I would like, and this is my criticism, I don't give a shit who's watching, how many people, whether it's 1 or 100, whether you're the biggest Democrat or the biggest Republican. This is what I have to say to the Democratic Party, of which I'm still a member for reasons I don't even know sometimes. But here's my point. What is the Democratic Party in 2024 without two issues? Without the issue of abortion and without the issue of Donald Trump? Because I'll tell you where the party is. Nowhere. There is no Democratic Party without that issue, those two issues. God
Right?
damn it.
Come on.
There's no two.
Right,
No,
right.
let me explain. Let me explain why.
Overlooking.
Let me explain why. The reason is every single answer and every single question begins and ends with abortion and or Donald Trump. And what I'm saying is respectfully, and this is where you feel a little bit of pushback from me when I in the groups and in the Facebook and everything else is, all I ask is one thing. We had torn this country apart over the vaccines and COVID. We don't want to go back and even ask questions about that. We don't even want to talk about what's going on the southern border, because if we do that, then it's validating Trump. And we can't give Trump even the slightest bit that he might have been right, even 1%, because if we do that, oh my God, the whole world, our fundraising is going to come down. We can't admit that maybe he had a point about that. It's not his point. It's the fact that he was right. It doesn't mean that he owns the issue. It just means that he was right. But if we don't have, when I say we, I mean Democrats, when Democrats don't have abortion and Trump, I would love to see where the hell they are, because
Okay.
I can't figure it out.
But I'm gonna respond to you with something we've spoken about before that I wish they would have spoken about more. That I actually think Kamala really killed him on the other night, and I wish she would have slapped him around even harder on this issue, and that's healthcare, because he was a miserable failure on healthcare, right? And here's what we want to do now.
Yeah.
We want to take healthcare and we want to tie it in with immigration, and we want to say that because of the number of people that are coming in, that's why healthcare is so expensive, so hard to get, so expensive on our taxes and our out of pockets. And again, healthcare has been broken for a long time before this spike in immigration. Okay, has it exacerbated that? Yes, but I got to tell you, Ray, it's completely hypocritical to want to blame the healthcare crisis on migrants and say, well, even if they're not eating my cat and my dog, they're the ones driving this spike in inability to get health care or because right, wait, let me just finish. I want to go back to a topic you brought up, and that's COVID. You cannot pretend to give a shit about health crisis and then tell me, well, I can't get vaccines because it's fucking inconvenient for me, and I can't wear a mask in Home Depot because I don't want to wear a mask. So guess what? You don't really give a shit about public health. I mean, you want to tie that issue into migrant and tie everything.
We have a lot there, but hold on. I got it, because only because I'm going to forget the points. I'm going to be like a Trump right now and forget the point. I almost have to write this down. But hold on. You said something a moment ago. Oh, I just forgot that point. It was a good one. You said something a moment ago about these masks and these. If we cared about that, if that was such a big deal, how in the world? And I say this as an objective person, as somebody of a person of color, my children would not be here if they didn't. I don't have, I mean, I think I'm balanced on this issue. And I think anybody who wants to know my family history can ask me. And, I have a lot of credit. I'm not a biased person. How could I be? Look at my kids. But my point is this. How could we say that COVID and the masks and the vaccine mandates were all, necessary? Are the people coming in right now
Right.
vaccinated? Do we know who they are? Do we know what's going on?
Right.
We don't have any clue.
Here's my
We don't have a clue. And
all right, but again, when my elected officials, whether it's at the local level, the state, or the federal level, ask me to wear a mask in public, work from home, get vaccines. I did it, okay? Because I was concerned about a public health crisis. That was all of our problem. Um, the same people who were screaming and yelling about immigrants coming in, they didn't want to get vaccines. And they talk about how this was a scam to get,
Right.
make money for Fauci and this one. I mean, I had a guy who I've been friends with from elementary school post this on Facebook. He said, I went to Home Depot. The person at the front of the store hassled me about putting a mask on. I argued with them. I put a mask on, and then a woman walked in with a 2-year-old kid in a stroller, and I pointed at the kid and said, "Why doesn't she have to wear a mask?" My goodness gracious, get a grip on yourself. And of course, the guy is, a big time Trumpster. So, you can't pretend to give a shit about public health when there are immigrants or migrants
Right.
or others involved. I mean, if you gave a shit about public health, you would have put on a mask when everybody else was doing it, gotten vaccines when everybody else was doing it. If anybody thinks that I liked doing that, I didn't. If anybody thinks I liked having my wife in the hospital for 5 days with COVID in March of 20, I didn't.
But Trezza, let me ask you a question. Because this is really topical, and I don't know if we're close. I guess we'll close this. But here's my point, and this is why I am the way I am. Because some people have said to me, "What the hell has gone on with you? What it is?" No, let's go back in time. Let's say it's now 2024. Let's go back to, I guess, 2020, maybe 2021. I think it was 2020. So let's say 4 years ago. Well, 4 years ago, in the thick of things, you and me and everybody that we know, we're trying to attach ourselves to our esteemed governor at the time, Governor Cuomo. Why? Because he was the force of democratic values in the face of COVID. He was the guy. He was our guy. Every freaking day at 12 p.m., we knew that he was going to come out in the white T-shirt, and he had the governor, and he had his I was going to say a bad thing, but okay. He had Melissa next to him, okay? And he gave us the numbers. He was the authority. Trump was this, right? Blah, 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 bleach, light, blah, blah, blah. But Cuomo was going to give us the numbers.
Right.
And then here we are. And I actually lost a friend over this, but because she lost, she got angry. She lost her, I think it was her father, whatever. I'm not saying whatever about that. She was mad at me about something else. But she said that, and that she had lost her father, and she's gotten a lot of publicity about this because her father died. Yesterday, you heard testimony from the former governor of New York, the darling. I mean, 4 years ago, he was at the top of the world. We were all wishing that he was president of the United States. And there wasn't a single Democrat, forget about New York State, there wasn't a Democrat in this country who wasn't in love with Andrew Cuomo. And what we found out yesterday was there was a whole bunch of stuff that even Democrats cannot defend. And his lack of transparency, his cover-up, and the cover-up over the cover-up on top of the $5 million book deal was outrageous. So what I would say to anybody who's watching and cares to chime in if they want to, if they don't, you don't, who was worse about COVID? Was it Trump, the guy who was overtly horrible about it, or Cuomo, who was in your face perfect and behind your back killing your parents?
Listen,
I leave it that way.
He screwed up, right? He screwed up.
What an asshole! What a major league asshole! I mean, what an asshole!
I wouldn't try to defend him. And honestly, I think if he is defending himself and throwing other people under the bus for the reason we spoke about in the attempt to get back in, I think that's a mistake. So knowing what I do now, I wouldn't support him again. So listen,
I mean, I'm just saying we got to call it out. We got to call it out on both sides. That Trump is Trump, but I have
no issue with that. You know me.
Well, I mean, look what's going on. Not to pile it on, but look what's going on in New York City. I mean, we've got a guy who's about to be thrown out as mayor because of some bribery. I mean, I was talking to Bobby about this and saying, how could you? I mean, listen, I don't have to be a politician. I've never been elected in my life, but it's like 101. The one thing you can't do is bribery. And it's like, There's so much of this, Trez. I don't want to go off the rails, but all right. So listen, it's September 12th. We're about to say goodnight. Are we going to have another debate or no?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think Trump wants it because again,
Okay, hold on one second.
I know you're going to frame this. You're going to think I'm framing this in terms
No,
of.
I'm actually going to have a little bit of fun with you for a second. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do this. Just bear with me for a second. Of course. Okay, here we go. All right. And let me make the text a little bit bigger because I can't see, and probably you can't either. Okay, September 12, 2024. Predictions with my friend Mike Trezza and anybody who might be watching now or later. Question number 1. Will there, let's do a soft one, be another debate?
Okay. I'm going to say right now, I don't think so. Number one, there's not time. The vice presidential debate for whoever is, ardently interested in that will be next month, and then the following month's the election. So, can you jam it into the schedule? You probably could, but I don't think Trump wants it, right? And I know you're gonna probably frame this in a way. Well, Trezza just hates Trump, which is true, but I don't think he wants it. I don't think he's going to see it as a chance to redeem himself. I think he's going to see it as a chance, as an additional obligation, something he, would need to work at. And clearly, I don't think he likes to work at anything. He never has. So, no, I don't think there's going to be another one. Well, she challenged him already.
Yeah, we'll challenge him.
She challenged him already, and
I know.
he's hemming and hawing. Well, if I can't get it done on Fox,
Okay. So we have a little bit of a wager here. Okay. So I would say yes. Okay. Now, hold on. I don't want to ask you the final question because it then ruins everything else. So okay, here's the question.
Wow, that one's tough. Boy, that is tough.
Because I'm basically asking you to call it in a way that indirectly. So who's going to win the election?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, I don't think people think this is possible right now, but I do think there is a way that she loses Pennsylvania, wins the other swing states, and you talk about an inside straight.
Are you saying Trump? I just want to type it in. Are you saying Trump?
I think he may carry Pennsylvania, and she may still win the election.
Okay. I want to save you here because I want to just put it in. So.
Okay.
But. Okay, we'll put that later. That's the finale. Now, hold on one second. I got another question for you because this ties into everything else we did tonight. Ready? Surprise.
Oh boy, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me this question.
No, come on. Come on.
I've heard people make a big deal out of this for the last day or two. Listen, celebrity endorsements are nice. It's easy for guys our age, right? And I don't know if you noticed, I just made you and me the same age.
I noticed that before.
It's easy for guys in our age group, I will say, to overlook her popularity. She's, I mean, I just heard somebody the other day from a rock band describe her as being more popular than the Beatles and the Stones put together in their heyday. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for us to underestimate. Having said that, though, the people she appeals to are primarily, obviously, younger and obviously women. And I think Kamala has those people already. So I don't think it's that much of an impact.
Can you give me, hold on, how much does it help? Can you give me points in the election right now? Overall population. Yeah, percentage. General. I don't know. General.
I would say relatively inconsequential.
Okay. Okay.
I'll
Okay.
just leave it at that.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'll take that. Hold
Don't
on.
make
So
me
that's
do
gonna.
math. It's late at
No,
night.
I know. I know. I know. I'm gonna let you go in a second. Trezza. Okay. Hold on. I got a couple more. Trezza. Nothing. Okay.
Not nothing.
Great.
Next to nothing.
Almost. Okay. We're gonna agree. Okay. Almost nothing. Hold on. I got a couple more. Hold on. Let me just change the topic for a second. Then I'll finish with one more. See that one?
Next question.
No. You're not going to answer it?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say judge.
What's the deal? You know what I feel so stupid about? What's the deal with the guy from KC that everybody loves?
He's good. He's really good. He's a really good player.
Like an overall player? I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. No, he's great. I think he's a rookie or is in his second year, but he's great.
I mean, I kind of, you know what it is? I kind of left you off the hook here because I just realized there's a dumb question. That's not the question I wanted to answer, but there's no question I could ask you because Ohtani's in the NL, and that's the question I wanted to ask you indirectly. You know, so I screwed up that question because I wasn't stupid. All right, so here we go, Trez. Last question of the night. Here we go. September 12th. Go on the record if you want. If you don't, fine. Who wins? Who wins?
Okay, I certainly wasn't ready to say this.
Yeah.
A month ago.
Okay.
I'm not sure I was ready to say this 2 weeks ago. And again, I'm not putting too much stock into the debate. I think clearly she won, but I am putting stock in momentum. And I think the momentum's on her side. And I am ready to say for the first time, I think she wins.
Okay. I just sent a response back. So Trezza now, I'm going to write VP Harris after careful consideration. Okay. I mean, that's just, it took you a while to get there. Now I'm going to say something. I'm going to give a little bit of a thing because Boris has been as much of this as whatever. So Boris, who's going to win this election? I'll give you a moment before I answer my end. Well, you know what? I can answer because anything I say is not going to affect Boris. Boris is his own person. So I'm going to say,
wow, you're still saying Trump? Holy shit. Media loves him more than you think. And so you. And so do you? Me?
No, not you.
Watching. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, hold on. I mean, Boris, that's not really an answer. I mean, you know, you're giving me the CNN answer. This is the word. Probably. Well, hold on. Come on. I got to make fun of him. I'm going to make fun of him. Please. What does that mean, Boris? Give me an answer. It was September 12th. We're not, you know. You know what the problem is? Let me give a more technical answer. I don't see how anybody wins this election without winning Pennsylvania. I think they're actually right about that. The conventional math, I see it. Whatever. I think Kamala's done a great job with what she has to do. I mean, she's solidified the base in a way that I never thought she would have that quickly. I mean, think about it. Without going into this whole other topic, she's icing out a lot of other people. She's icing out Gavin Newsom. He's not a young guy. He's in his 50s. If she's got 8 years, he's giving up 8 years of his life to potentially run again, you know, in 8 years from now. But there's no guarantees. He might be giving up his one chance at the presidency, you know? So all I'm saying is, what was my point? My point was that it's not clear to me that she's going to win some of the states that she has to win because of the Electoral College. If it was a popular vote, of course, we all know this. This isn't even anything to talk about. Okay, so Boris said too tight. Can't answer you. All right. I think it's because of this. I think it's all theater. I think so much of what happens is theater, more so than I would have thought when I was a younger person. And I think that half the people on TV, not even half, 3/4 of people on TV who hate Trump, they hate Trump, they hate Trump, but they can't live their lives without talking about him every freaking day. I thought, and what I voted for was in 2020 that we were going to put Biden in office and we were going to forget about Trump. And it is the Democratic Party, which I will say once again, that never forgot about Trump. Every single instance, he was front and center. And I wonder what this party looks like without him being around, which we will find out eventually, whether it's this year or next term, I don't know. But there will be life without Donald Trump. And I don't know where the Democratic Party stands. What are the answers to this war? What are the answers to what's going on in Israel? What are the answers to what's going on with our southern border? What's the answers what's going on with Latin? We haven't had a president of the United States visit Latin America in how long? When was the last time the president of the United States flew to Colombia or Argentina? He's got a nice plane. Why doesn't he get on the plane tomorrow? It's unbelievable to me. Anyway.
Listen, Ray, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to jump off. Always a pleasure being with you. So many more questions to get to. But this was fun.
Okay, well, hold on. Last question. No, I got one more. You can't go out of this one.
I thought that last one was the big one.
No, who wins? Come on. No, if or what? Come on.
I know what you want me to say, but I'm not going to say it.
Tell me.
Philadelphia Phillies.
What am I supposed to say? You're my soulmate? I actually was thinking that too.
Yeah, they have the best record right now. They're doing great.
No, it's not that. Bryce. Not just as a player, as a leader. He's a good leader.
Ray, I'm jumping off.
Yep. Thanks, Trez. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good night.